Welcome. Gio and I are here with Kurt Patrick, Senior Business Development Director at Essensys and General Badass, as Gio likes to call him. Kurt has been on the podcast one time before, but it was a duo interview with Faye. So we're enjoying our solo time with Kurt today. Kurt, thank you for making the time to join us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for joining this podcast. I believe you were out when I was with
I
Faye. It's a pleasure to
totally,
have you.
True story. True story.
yep, I totally did miss that one. Okay, Kurt, tell us about your background for those watching on YouTube.
Sure. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, I started out in sales in a pretty unconventional way. It was by way of being a music major in college. I
I love this story.
I started out. I thought I was gonna be a rock star, right? So that was
Didn't we all,
plan
Kurt?
plan A. So playing drums since I was 10 years old. Was pretty good at it, was recognized by a lot of teachers, got kind of pushed along by a couple of them to audition for colleges, got in, got a music degree. I'm sailing. It's great. Then I get through to my, I guess, junior year in college when you start doing your practicums and you're teaching out in the wild, so to speak. And you're teaching not just your primary instrument, you're teaching all the different instruments. And I was stuck with this one kid teaching the same trumpet lesson for about an entire semester. I'm like, I don't know that this is for me. It was about that same time where I was going door to door selling window cleaning services over the summer, and I was really good at that. And at that same time, my college, William Patterson University, started out a sales program to elevate selling and really bring it up from the concept of a used car salesman to create a notion of a professional salesperson and what it would be like to if you had salespeople who were fully trained out of college going into your organization, how valuable would that be? That was the thesis of it, founded by Russ Berry, the creator of Trolls. Some of you who have kids might know what those are, the crazy hair little
I think Gio and
critter.
I are just at the perfect age where trolls were a pretty significant part of my childhood, at least. Love it.
So yeah, Russ made a fortune and wanted to create a legacy, and NYU turned him down, and William Patterson said yes, I'll take it, and they took it and ran with it. And I interviewed to be in that program and did really well, so much so that I got tapped to be in the sales honors program, which is a program of only 5 students in the whole university that got into this sales honors program. And
You are a
it
rock
was
star.
I was still playing music at the time too, so I was kind of cool back then. And fortunately, I was cool enough to get the eye of one of my fellow classmates, a girl named Kelsey Johnson, who a few years later became Kelsey Patrick, and both
And who's
graduated.
currently very pregnant.
She's very pregnant. Yes, we have a little girl on the way. So it is, by the way, almost St. Patrick's Day, hence the green color. So we're only 3 months away. We got June 2nd due date. So crazy, crazy. But Kelsey and I both graduated, went to different sales organizations. I went to ADP, which was amazing. It was like a boot camp in sales, door to door selling. Really took the rough sketch that I was and helped fill it out. And then I took those skills onto Thomson Reuters to Essensys. And 7 years later, here I am.
The story of Kurt. Okay, well, tell us about your what's going on with your music career these days.
A little bit more, a little quieter, no pun intended. Don't really have the time that I used to have to be as much of a rock star. Kind of taking a back seat, become the sub, which for a busy person like myself, it's a great scenario because you don't have to go to the practice. You kind of get the phone call, hey, so and so's sick.
Excellent.
Can you make the gig? Yes, absolutely. And then you have some of the seasonal gigs that you get hired for. Giovanni will appreciate this. Every year, I do a St. Patrick's Day parade in full kilt and full garb. Maybe I'll share a photo for you guys to put with the meeting or the podcast notes. But yeah, I do that every year. It's the Guttenberg, New Jersey St. Patrick's Day parade, which is hilarious because if you look at the demographics of Guttenberg, New Jersey, there's maybe 7 Irish people in the whole town.
For the record, he still hasn't told me what's underneath the kilt.
Go to the parade and find out, Gio.
That's right. So yeah, we have that Saturday. But yeah, so I still play as much music as I possibly can. Then I have a couple friends that keep trying to get me to play in other bands, which we'll see what happens there.
So what is your favorite album behind you? If you're not on video, he's got all his albums framed behind him.
Yeah, it would be really cool if this was my house, but this happens to be Studio by Tishman Speyer. There,
Wow.
there, there's a
Seriously?
Curtis Mayfield
I
album over
assumed
there.
it was your I assumed this was your home office. Go
Of course, it's my home
studio.
office. I have several different. I do have guitars on my wall at home.
That's why I
But
was thrown off. But okay, so if there was a framed album behind you that would be your favorite, what would it be?
there's a Curtis Mayfield album down there that's really good. But yeah, I'll go with that one.
Curtis Mayfield, it is. So, I mean, one of the reasons I want to get you on here, not only because you're one of my good friends and a industry influencer slash connector, but you've been having a lot of high level conversations with landlords, operators. You've kind of been at the forefront of some of these takeovers of other operators, i.e., WeWorks. So, just kind of wanted to get a high level view of kind of conversations you're having out there, and then we'll kind of dive down into a micro level of what you're doing with Essensys. And I mean, I know there's been some changes on your focus and deployment and everything else, so I'll let you start off wherever you want.
Thanks, Gio. What we've seen is it's really interesting because the expectation of these landlords was so high. Like I've been following this thread for at least a year, so we knew just looking at the burn rate of WeWork about a year and a half ago that it wasn't looking good. So we got ahead of a lot of those conversations, and I had a really targeted approach to be the name that they thought of when the space got handed back. Now, incredibly naive because I only solve for a very small part of what you need to stand up these spaces. It really does take an ecosystem. And although I think my part is very important in this ecosystem, it does take a lot more to stand up an operation. And staying in front of those landlords actually was critical to help guide some of those conversations to where they eventually landed with a lot of household names that we work with now. But it's been pretty interesting to see the entire we're not there yet, right? It's still happening and a lot of changes are still occurring, but it's been interesting to see on day one of the announcement of bankruptcy those conversations and how they've continued. And it's just been this long arduous process. It does kind of feel like well, it is, right? It's being dragged through the courts. It's a legal proceeding. It's not a business negotiation like we all think about on a normal basis. So for those of you that are intimately familiar with all of these proceedings, I mean, just stay strong because I'm seeing some really good fruits of our labor when it comes to these conversations. And it's only now, a year and a half later, starting for some of these opportunities. So it's a massive slog, and it is really interesting that there are a lot of consistent themes that occur when these spaces get given back. Every operator thinks, oh, they're going to leave all the furniture. Oh, they're going to leave all the tech. Oh, it's going to be super easy. We're just going to come in there, throw a couple people at it, no problem. I can tell you that that's not happened once. They may leave furniture. It's not the furniture you want, not the furniture you need. It's just either way too much of it that you have to get rid of and throw away, and it's kind of like not great quality, or they've just taken everything. I have a story of an operator where they took the floor. They just took the floors out. It was the floors were completely useless, and they just removed sections just to make it more difficult for another operator to come in. So it's the stories they range from weird to weirder in a lot of these situations. But in in any event, it's never been as easy as anyone thinks it is. But for those operators that have gotten some really good spaces, it's been worth the slog, and I think you can ask them about that.
And Kurt, from your perspective, I mean, you're trying to solve for the like building connectivity. I mean, you're getting in front of the landlord saying like, look, this is a really critical part of the business. Like then, everything's going, whoever's leaving the space is going to shut it off. And then, you've nothing in the space. And also it's an opportunity for an asset owner to think about what access looks like for the entire building, right? I mean, that's part of Yeah, I mean, your job is really hard because you're like on this journey with them and you're waiting. It's kind of taking them along and waiting for them to sort of put all the puzzle pieces together. It's like you can see what the end point might look like in an ideal world. And I guess that's what your, honors degree in sales it's for, to like, how do you, frame it up and tell them the story and show them what's possible, but you got to sort of wait for them to come along.
And not only are you waiting for them to come along, you're waiting for the market to support the kind of
Yeah.
financial investment that they would have to make to turn this space back into something that's usable, to create a product and a strategy for the rest of the building. Because ultimately, the spaces that are getting handed back can be massively accretive to the rest of the
Right.
asset. You can
Right.
use it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
People
if they
aren't
take the
contracting.
ecosystem approach, and that's part of your solution, right, is helping them see what's possible and to enable that from an IT and connectivity perspective, but they have to kind of buy into that and then be able to access capital to do it.
100%. And if they've bought into that ecosystem, it's a hand in glove. It makes a ton of sense. But unfortunately, a lot of landlords that you speak to just can't get to that point. And it is hard to drag them along because yes, what we solve for is amazing, it's wonderful, but it is very IT intensive. And it's like, okay, well, who's going to press the buttons? Who's going to man the space? Who's going to serve the coffee? Who's going to program the space? Who's going to have events? Who's going to lease the space? My brokers don't want to talk about flex office. They don't even know what that is. So it that ecosystem requires what we've kind of realized, operators.
Yeah.
So we've now come full circle to back where we were in 2019. Is it's the operators and the operators who are in front of these opportunities, in front of these landlords that are having these conversations, that are raising their hand and saying, I can help you. I see the vision. Trust me, I'll show you the way. And then telling a good enough story so that the owners will invest in them and trust the vision that they have to activate those buildings. And we've seen some of it. We haven't seen anywhere near as much as we will see in the next 6 months. So it's incredibly exciting for us because we're having those conversations. But to your point, we're waiting. We're waiting for them to
Yeah.
just get it, just figure it out, and come on, let's go.
But even from an operator perspective, there's not many operators who operate on an ecosystem level either. I mean, I think that's what's interesting about you and your role is you really have this like bird's eye view of what's happening and you can connect the dots. And because you connect dots for me all the time, I'll be like, "Okay, Kurt, tell me how you're looking at this because I'm not, I don't get it yet." And you're like, "Okay, this is you're very patient, but you're a great dot connector because you have that more macro view. So there's a lot of pieces to put together. I'm curious. So like, what's your pep talk about the maybe the time horizon for this or the opportunity? Like when you're like, Kurt, we're
Yeah.
doing this, stick with it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you'll see some news here in a couple weeks, but there's institutional landlords that are enabling space to be taken by operators who we all know and we all talk to, that we're a part of those conversations. So we're talking weeks, not months, for some really sizable spaces that have been given
right.
back to get reactivated. So it's incredibly exciting because in those scenarios, it's not just a single floor. It's maybe a single floor of co-working, but it's being made visible to the entire building via different technologies, via tenant engagement apps that tie into Essensys, and via programming, via teams that are now having a more elevated conversation than what your traditional property management have. So going back to what to look forward to, there's gonna be a ton of press on this very soon. And I think the way that you tie it back to how do you get landlords and how do you get ownership on board and how do you try and tell that story is just go back to insights, go back to what your data points can prove out from what you're asking for money to do. So if you can actually show an ROI for any of the dollars that you're trying to spend based on either foot traffic, based on increased volume of leasing, increased people in the building. Let's just get people in the building.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that tells a story that they can then sell up the chain, because that's ultimately what it comes back to, is trying to convince the banks
Yep.
that this asset that was once worth this much is now worth this much, but can maybe get to somewhere in the middle with programming, with building a brand, building a reason for people to take space at building A versus building B. It's all about proving that point. And fortunately, I work for a company whose technology helps do that.
Well, with my retail background, I tell people that we're essentially a retailer that happens to go to an office setting. And everything you're saying is how they pick where grocery stores are going, where the pharmacies are going, where the home improvement stores, where the restaurants are going, right? It's all off of insights, right? And our phones that we carry around get pinged all day long. And so the insights that retail developers use and retailers use are based off of our cell phone usage. It's based off of traffic patterns and everything else. And so it's becoming more and more important within an office building, right? Or a business park, is to understand where are people moving and how are they using the space, right? What neighborhoods are they utilizing? Is it the open desking? Is it the conference rooms? Is it the enclosed phone booths, all those things? And I still remember pre-pandemic and even moving into and out of the pandemic, we talked about sensors underneath desks, all kinds, which are costly, right? And you have to put them everywhere, as opposed to, I hate to say it, we don't go anywhere without our phone, right? I mean, we don't go to the bathroom, we don't go to the coffee machine in a lot of cases. So you know exactly where people are based off of those pings and where the Wi-Fi is hitting those and everything else. So, you're spot on in the direction that things are headed, obviously.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because it's exciting, because it's always been something within the software that you've been able to do. You have to extract it through a couple different ways, but now, some exciting news from Essensys that'll be coming out in a few weeks. It's now going to be even easier than it's ever been. So stay tuned on that front. Come say hi at Juicy. Come say hi at GWA Immersive. We'd love to tell you more about it. Um, Shameless plug there, obviously.
We'll
That
cut it
that
out.
that's the whole direction. Is it's really, it's us helping you help us help you, because yeah, you're right. Your devices are connecting automatically when you walk in. So imagine a world, right, when you're walking into any office building, and you're able to have insights as to how people are using your lobby versus the floor that they're assigned versus the amenity spaces that they're permitted to go to, and being able to cross-reference that against bookings, against utilization of floors that you spent God knows how much money building out, that you can then justify the build to do so, or say, guys, we built this and no one's using it. We got to figure out a way to point people to let them know about it. So to either nudge or make them aware of what's available. So I guess that's just to say, you want to be able to have something that you can present to the owners of the building, but also your heavy users. So if you look at the most sophisticated consumers of space, they want to know how their people are using the licenses that they have with the operators that they work with. They want to see not just that they badged in, they want to see how long they were there. They want to see parts of the space that they're using. They want to see which spaces they're using, depending on the level of membership, to justify those costs, and be able to either continue or eliminate those expenses for people. So it just makes sense. And fortunately, like I said, we're doing it.
Hey, first, real personal question. The album was just a trick question. So you are extremely passionate about people and helping people and checking on people, building relationships. Where does that come from? I mean, is that something you grew up with? Is it something that you just kind of worked on?
You know, I don't really think about it. I just do it. So I guess it's something that I've
So I'm
always
asking you to
done.
think about it.
Yeah. So I always enjoyed putting people together. Like I don't know. maybe in another life I was like a recruiter or like a matchmaker or something like that. Because I thought this came up in my head the other day. Like I connected my high school band director with a car stereo guy. He's like, man, my speakers in my car suck. And I'm like, I got a guy. Like, he's like, you're 17. How do you have a guy? But I did. And I guess I've been doing it forever. I have fun with it. And it's, because it's so hard to find like-minded people and good people in regular life. And I happen to also work for, a company that has that view over a lot of different people in our ecosystem. And a lot of them are really good people. And I connect them to other really good people, and it's fun. I don't know. They just do it.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful part about it is you don't expect anything in return, right? It's you're not trying to monetize anything. You're simply trying to help people, right? And that's what I love about it is your heart behind it.
I think it all comes back to you, doesn't it? It's a bit of karma there. Maybe somebody will do the same for me down the road, but if not, that's all right.
And so your son is KJ, right? How's his little personality picking that up, or is it? Or
Man, he's 5 years old. He's all about sword fighting and jumping off the walls. I mean, he'll get there, I think. He's got a really sweet demeanor and he's a great little dude. I I hope he's like that. We'll see.
Wait, is he playing soccer yet?
Yes, Jamie, appreciate this. I was voluntold that I was going to be a volunteer coach. Having played exactly 0 years of soccer in my life, I was a bit nervous. And then I went to the first practice and I realized it was more just like herding cats, which I was more comfortable with than teaching someone to bend it like Beckham or something. So
Totally.
yeah, that was way more my speed.
Love it. Get him in early.
well, they
Uh,
just saw your athletic prowess and they're like, this guy has to know how
this
to play
guy's it.
sports.
We got to recruit this guy. Okay, but even the band was a big surprise because Kurt, I remember when you introduced yourself and podcast listener, and we got to know each other. And at some point, I don't think I knew you were in a band, maybe until Gio sent me the picture of you with the Flex Uncensored hat on, and I was like, "What do you mean, Kurt's in a band? That's so cool!" Yeah,
I tried to promote as much as possible. And you'd be surprised. People ask me, like, what is Flex Uncensored? They thought it was some other stuff, which I had to explain. No, no, it's not that.
I do
And then,
sometimes get nervous about wearing the hat. Like, yeah, I think I was like, oh, I have a board meeting tonight. And for whatever reason, I was like, oh, I might have to put a hat on for that meeting. And I was like, will people think it's weird that I have a hat on that says uncensored on it when we're talking
Well,
about
it's
little
funny.
kids
People have
playing
asked me,
soccer?
is that like a supplement company for like bodybuilding or something? I'm like, yes, because
Ooh.
I am the specimen. I'm Shlomo walking around, right?
Slow-mo
But
could, yeah, that would be believable.
I was loading into a gig, funny enough, and I was wearing the Flex Uncensored blade windbreaker that
The
Gio gave
best.
me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, Mr. Flex Uncensored over here. I was like,
you're the
Yeah,
best.
Kurt actually got a jacket. There's two Flex Uncensored jackets. One's in my closet and the other one's in Kurt's.
Kurt, you're in the club.
avid listener. I just hope that I've done this podcast justice. I feel like I'm probably the bottom of the barrel of guests you've had, but severe imposter syndrome going on this side of the camera.
We do have
So
some
I'll
really
say
go ahead.
Kurt listens every Tuesday on the bus.
No, I
Every
know. And
Tuesday
actually
morning.
he's now my like customer avatar is not exactly the right term, but I do picture Kurt in my brain if I'm like, ooh, running late on posting the episode. I'm like, Kurt's on the bus and what's he gonna listen to? I gotta get this thing up. And I actually told Kurt the other day, I was like, sometimes I just get really stuck on the title and the description. He's like, no one cares. No one cares. Just put the guest name in, hit publish. I was like, okay, got it. A little mindset pep talk. So I love it.
Thank you for that, Kurt.
Totally.
Oh, super happy to. It's funny because you know you get asked to be on the podcast, especially one that you listen to all the time. It's like, what am I going to bring that's different, that's interesting, that's of value? And I genuinely hope I've given someone one thing that's helpful to them in their journey. And if you've listened to this podcast and you've gotten this far, and I've not, call me and I'll find something of value to give you. Don't know what it'll be, but we'll figure it out.
I know you're
Because
like,
yeah,
Still
I
have 20
recognize.
minutes. You still have 20 minutes.
we got time. I have a question that I think will be a home run. What do you wish that operators were thinking about in terms of leveraging their IT infrastructure and some of the capabilities that you're like, look, if you would just do this, like life could be amazing, or your customers would be so happy, or you could generate revenue. Like there's got to be stuff on your side that doesn't get it, picked up, or like, I'm curious what those might be for those listening, since we have a captive
Oh,
audience.
yeah, totally. So I'll start with the missed opportunities. And I think that that's something that the industry is obviously, you have two poles of people. You have the all-inclusive people, and you have the nickel and dime people. And everyone looks at Regis as the big bad, nickel and dime, evil empire type thing. They're big and bad and they make a lot of money.
Yeah,
So
until you
there's
see
definitely,
their revenue line for service revenue, then you might be like, what am I doing wrong?
yeah, and we have a killer case study coming out with car workplaces that demonstrates that as well. It's
Ooh,
incredibly meaningful what a sophisticated operator can generate in fees that they don't even realize. And the customer, on from an experience standpoint, they're happy to pay it because
yeah.
it is a better offering than what they can get on their own. It's more reliable. The customer experience is better because your community managers
It's about the
are the ones
framing. And
that,
I think people aren't right. They aren't equipped to sell those services.
yeah.
Pacific Workplaces, I know they don't use a census, but they're kind of a good example of, I think they have a service package. Nobody thinks twice about it. We have a bunch of their community managers in our community manager program, and we did a sales training the other day, and one of them was talking about kind of reviewing the proposal. Like they don't dig into that line. To your point, I think they really frame it as a value proposition versus some fee somebody's trying to get away with. Mm.
Yeah, and if you look in the market for things, voice represents less than 10% of all usage in of data ports on our network, right? So, but of that, the revenues are super high. You think about a cost basis that you get with us versus what retail is. And even if you are slightly above what you'd pay with like a Vonage, Ring Central, 8x8, any of these traditional VoIP providers, you're still making great margin, great money that can be used to offset your carrying costs. And it's money that these tenants would gladly give
Right.
you if they
Because
didn't
they
have to
want the
deal with
service.
Vonage. I
Yep.
mean, do yourself a favor and Google Vonage class action lawsuit. It's $100 million judgment that went against them because they weren't letting people leave. They set up a phone number that just went back to itself if you wanted to cancel. It's amazing. So if you're an operator and you're not asking the question around voice and you have the capability to stand it up like you're an Essensys customer, you're doing yourself a disservice. And just to get the most out of the space that it's costing you a lot of money to run, that would be a good starting point. Another thing is bandwidth, being able to create packages of bandwidth. I get it. You want to seem like it's just one agreement, everything's in there. Everyone knows that everything has a good, better, and best type of option. And if you give them something that is, either business class or comfort plus, doesn't have to be first class and it doesn't have to be coach, they'll choose the middle tier, which will generate revenue incrementally and will be really meaningful as you ramp up and as you start to sell these spaces. So that's another item that I encourage you to look at and speak to Jamie, speak to any of the other consultants that are out there that can help you stand this up, help you productize that, help you sell it onwards because you look at some of these legacy operators, these business centers, they are the best at it and nobody bats an eye and they're making great money with it. So it's those little things that I wish that people just took advantage of because if you just put it into every conversation, you don't ask, you don't get. So if you just
Would
drip
you
that
like
out
fries
there,
with that?
that's
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was something that blew me away with Flip at GWA, or it may have been Juicy in Chicago. It was Juicy in Chicago. He was saying the amount of revenue he generates off of mail
Yeah.
services. He's
Yep.
like, you could argue that alone is why you'd stand up a center. It's like the fries of McDonald's. So. I don't sell mail services, but you can speak to Anytime Mailbox or any of those great people to do so.
Well done. Well done plugging other people in.
Oh, I mean, listen, they're all great people. So that I'm happy to help where I can.
So how excited are you to have a little girl?
You know what? I'm curious because KJ is gonna in one of two ways. He's super excited to have a sibling, but being an older brother to his sister, I'm curious to see the role that he's going to take. Either he's going to be like combative, fighting for attention, not because it's boy girl, or if he's going to be like very protective. Like I'm very curious how this is all going to play out. And it's funny, everyone's like, "Oh, she's going to wrap you around her finger." I'm like, KJ kind of already has me around his finger. I'm like, don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to be really curious, but I'm excited.
Well, actually, you shared with me that KJ is actually responsible for this little girl.
Oh, did he demand a sibling? I can remember my daughter being like, now she's kind of glad she's an only, but yeah. I
Yeah.
think she came home one day and was like, I would like a sibling. And yeah.
He's like, I don't remember where we were, but he's like, Mommy, Daddy, I'm lonely. I'm like, but we're right here. It's like, I want a brother or sister. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, this is it.
And that's all your wife needed. She's like, let's go.
Yeah, we just looked at each other like, all right, I guess so. And Gelsey works full time too. Amazing woman, and the fact that she juggles everything, having two kids already, KJ and I, to have a third, it's a lot to ask of her. But since KJ asked, I guess different story.
So go ahead.
Well, I was
Go.
just going to ask, since you met in school, she was in the sales program with you. Was she in the honors group too?
Yeah, yep. We both had to interview to get into it. We did not know each other going in.
So what was it? What was the spark?
I'll give you the full uncensored story. So
Appreciate that.
Gelsey worked for the sales program. So she worked in like as like an admin within the university, like she's like a part-time whatever.
Pizza money?
And exactly. So supposedly when I came in to apply, she saw me and she remembered me. And I was like aloof, just like I'm like, all right, it's like college Kurt. You can imagine what that was like. I was trying to figure out like how to apply for this sales program. Music major, I had quite a bit more hair than I did now, and I was like, oh, trying to apply for this thing, and she's like, yeah, you got to go speak to Dr. So and so. Let me walk you into the office. I don't remember any of that exchange. None of it. Fast forward, I get into the program, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I was here when you applied." I'm like, "Oh, I don't interesting." And then we got to know each other, and then she asked me out
Ooh, I
to move
like.
forward,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that."
Sounds good.
Okay, where did you do for your first date?
We went to see, it was a John Cusack movie. I think it was 2021. I think the world ended, which is kind of creepy considering it almost ended in 2020. You can fact check me on this, but Gio's smiling, so I think he's Googling it right now. But yeah, so we went to Chili's
Nice.
at the Garden
I mean,
State
you're in
Plaza.
college at this point. Dating in
Oh,
college is, yeah, we gotta have a low bar here. Chili's. Okay, nice.
oh yeah, Chili's. I think it was the last time I went to Chili's. And then we went to then we went to the movie theater, which is in the Garden State Plaza, which is a North Jersey staple for those of you listening in the greater New Jersey metropolitan area.
And what was y'all's first dance to?
At our wedding,
Yeah.
uh, I proposed on Blue Moon, and I didn't plan that. Let's just say that, but we went with it. And the theme for our wedding was played by, or the first dance for our wedding was played by my friends, the band that I was in, and now the sub for. I was dancing in the moonlight, and yeah,
Jamie's heart
it
just
was
melted. I saw it. She her
Love
little
it.
side
Wait,
toe.
and your band
Mhm.
was your wedding band?
Yeah. So the band played a few songs in the beginning. The more interesting question is what song did we walk into?
Oh, okay, yes. We like that question. Tell us.
So my friend who I play in the bagpipe band with wanted to be involved, and we were trying to figure out how to involve him. And it led perfectly into AC/DC, Long Way to the Top, because there's bagpipes in it, and it's extended intro. It was perfect. So we walked in and we sang with the band, and then we sang Take It Easy with the band, and then we did our first dance, Dancing in the Moonlight.
This is good. Wait, you play in a bagpipe band? So bagpipes are they Irish or Scottish?
It's Gaelic.
Gaelic.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's Gaelic. But yeah, I play snare drum in that.
Oh,
That
okay.
band.
You don't play the bagpipes, but you play with the okay. Oh,
I do.
bagpipes. Yum. Okay.
It's a
Wow.
once a year gig, but it's a really fun one.
Okay. Wow.
You'll get a picture this year. I'll get it too. So I'll
Wait,
make
Kurt,
sure.
have we ever
100%.
talked about my daughter's middle name is a leash?
No, I know her first name is Dagny.
Yeah. So her middle name is Irish because and we this is so ridiculous. We were like, well, if she doesn't like her first name, she could her middle name, which is also totally crazy and hard to spell. My husband is half Irish, so she got the Irish middle name.
Yeah,
Anyway,
choosing a girl's name is like, well, choosing my son's name was nearly impossible. I just went with what my mother-in-law recommended, which was KJ. So I'm like, that sounds great.
mhm.
Basically, Kurt Thomas Patrick Jr. Let's do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, the little girl's name I'm finding it incredibly challenging because my wife wanted to keep the K theme, and I'm like, so what are we gonna do? Is it play K in front of everything? So I'm like, Commanda. Yeah, let's do that.
There you go.
Oh, Kurt.
It'll come to you.
We hope so.
So what are your three predictions for the rest of this year based off of what you're seeing out there for work?
I predict that you will run about 30K with 300 pounds of weight vest.
Talking about professionally.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Professionally. Yeah. So what we will see is well capitalized operators who aren't national right now
Mm.
will very soon become national and scoop up a lot of market share that no one's even thinking about yet. We will see established landlords who have been preparing for a long time to stand up operations and do so in a very meaningful way. And we will see consolidation
Operator
in the market,
consolidation.
operator consolidation. And I'll give you four. You'll see a
Bonus.
universe where the systems that power these spaces more freely talk to one another. And the pain of getting one software to talk to another software to achieve a common goal will become less so. I'm getting the Larry David stare from Jamie.
Well, there's a lot of pain in that, especially for landlords, right? Because they're like known for having dated IT, tech, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality is that you need so many different parts of a tech stack to speak to one another to enable a
Yeah.
true,
Mm-hmm.
clear view of what's happening in the space. And it's been long overdue, but fortunately the work's been done, and you're going to see a lot of it go live very, very soon.
Yeah, I think the continued evolution of the landlord and the lender is going to be really unique, right? I'm excited to see how that continues playing out, right? I think landlords have come around and now we're waiting for lenders to come around too. And so, I think the further this WeWork thing plays out and kind of softens into the backdrop, if you will, hopefully, I think it'll make these conversations a little bit easier with landlords and lenders, whether at all kinds, because it's traditional deals and non-traditional deals that there's a struggle on.
Yeah, something I'd like to see. I don't know if it's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months, but it would be a change in the way that these spaces are valued. So a big mission that we have, also a member of the ULI Flex Product
That's
Council.
right. Yes.
We have a big meeting first week in April, actually second week in April, same time as Juicy, but if you can do both like I am, please do it. Let me know. I'm happy to sponsor you. Interesting what's going on there is a big initiative to try and get these lenders to recognize the flex office industry as what it really is versus just a zero rating in a building stack. Because ultimately, even if it gets to the point of a hotel evaluation, the industry for as a whole will be in a much better place than where it's been historically, so that a lot of these deals can get done. And that is the big hurdle is how these spaces are getting valued to get anything approved. So I hope that gets solved for really quick. But like I said, very small part of this continuum, but trying to just get the right people in the room and the right conversations had so that really the whole industry benefits from a higher tide.
GWA should be working on that too. Just saying. That's the bottleneck, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. If only we can get the year of a president or something like that.
Something. Okay, so 2 more questions. One is you're gonna be at Juicy. Are you gonna be late to Juicy?
Yeah, it's a bummer, but I will be there. So ULI Flex Office Product Council is on the April 9th and will take us through midday. I then depart for the airport, get on a plane, fly over there. I think my flight's at 7. I get there at like 11 o'clock. So if you're at UC at 11 o'clock, Salt Lake City time, I will walk into the happy hour, guns blazing, and then wake
Wait,
up early.
11
And
I think
p.m.
that's no longer a happy hour.
It's
Jamie's
after.
already Jamie's already asleep. She's like on her
You're
third
pointing
drink
at
by
me?
then.
Where's Gio at 11? Not at the party.
oh no,
You're right. You're right.
Gio's in the weight room getting a call from me saying, "We're all at
Yes.
the bar. Where are
Right.
you?"
Oh,
Totally.
guilty.
Okay.
Guilty.
But yeah, so then
yeah.
I'll be there. I'll be there all day Wednesday, and I'm gonna be doing the tours in the morning on Thursday. Really looking forward to it. It looks like it's gonna be an amazing event. But I will miss your session, and by the sound of Gio's travel, he might miss your session too.
He's on the list for this. Okay, so who's the Kurt substitute? If people listening are like, yeah, I totally want to talk to, I want to get the insights that Kurt shared. Who should they find at your booth?
Yeah, so Bradley Bourne will be there on the first day.
Okay.
And then, like I said, if you really want to get the current insights, 11 o'clock, hotel
Okay,
lobby
on the
bar.
9th. Okay. Maybe I'll
But yeah, we
sleep
have
in
a whole
that
team.
day.
So it'll be Bradley Bourne, a new member of our team.
Okay.
Chief Revenue Officer Daniel Brown will also be there on Tuesday midday. And then Ian and I fly in, Ian Millen and I fly in that
Ooh,
night.
okay. Ian's gonna be late too. All right, good to know. Good to know. Okay. And then are we ready for the last question? Gio?
No, I've got a
We
different
got more.
last question.
Okay. Oh, okay. Go
So
for it.
you've been listening to this podcast intently. What are the favorite 3 things about Jamie that you've experienced on the podcast?
Oh, I love her patience with you. I love her ability to keep this thing going because I know for a fact it wouldn't be where it is today, and I would have nothing to listen to on Tuesday mornings without her. And Jamie, I've said this to you in the past. You are the most polished, amazing presenter that this podcast could have asked for. So I get insight from just the way that you present, the way that you elevate the conversation, and
I'm a 3, Kurt.
everything.
You know how that is.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're more of a 3 than me. I think you're like
I might be 3 to in excess. Gio could
Yeah.
probably attest to that. Gio is responsible for the guest recruitment though. And I mean, honestly, that's like the big part of the podcast. Gio, we don't give you enough props for that. I'm always like,
Well,
Gio, we need more guests. And he's on it. And he goes out and gets the big guns. So
well, to be fair, Gio, if Jamie was reciprocal in this questioning, what would be my 3 favorite things about you?
mm,
I would say the levity, but also the way that you're able to extract the personalities out of the people that you have on the podcast. So I forgot that I'm on a podcast right now because you got me answering all these ridiculous questions that are amazing, and it gets to the core of who the person is, and you do that with everyone, which is wonderful. And it always comes from a really good place. And I know that you love everyone that's on these podcasts, so it's something that I really appreciate. And I think the two of you, it's a great pairing because
the yin and the
whatever
yang
whatever the Enneagram
interplay.
interplay is just working. So thank you, Joe. He's frozen.
Oh no!
And your mustache.
And the mustache. He's still frozen.
Yeah, no, it did. It has been an awesome. I can't believe we're almost on. Am I unfrozen?
You turned your video off though.
Let's try this. How about now?
All black.
Am I unfrozen now?
We can hear you, but your video doesn't exist anymore. It's like a black screen. Oh.
Andy's got some editing to do.
Totally. I know. I'm like, note to self.
I can't believe that we're almost on episode 100.
Oh, hold on. Cut your video and say it again. Here, let me text him.
We're
Oh,
right
there we
on
go.
it.
Okay, yeah, leave your video off and then say it again because we don't need the video for the end. We just need the audio.
So I was just saying, I can't believe that we're almost on episode 100. It's
No
absolutely
pressure. I
incredible.
was going to
Time has
text you.
flown by.
Yeah, you're on
Kurt, I
point
don't know, maybe
for the guest for the 100th episode, Gio. We got to strategize about that.
Maybe knock on Mr. Mark Dixon's door and see if he's still
All right,
interested in
we
speaking.
got this. We'll make it happen.
Okay, let's wrap.
This is crazy. We did just fine. Wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. Okay, we'll edit that out. Kurt, it has been lovely to spend a little time with you, and thank you for sharing your insights. And Gio will say this too. Thank you for everything you do for the industry. Gio, I actually called Kurt one day. I was like, Kurt, can we talk about sales? Tell me everything you know about sales. And more importantly, I don't know if I should say this on the podcast. You know, having a Stanley in middle school is everything. It's a thing. So these Stanley like tumbler. So Essensys decides this is the Christmas, like the holiday gift. So Kurt doesn't even know. He sends me one. And I was like, oh my God. I hide it first. Like I can't use it because she's gonna steal it. And I send Kurt like the article about this Stanley explosion. He was like, well, of course the guy's from New Jersey and yeah, all the things. But he didn't even know I was like, Kurt, if you have more, you should sell them on eBay. And so then Kurt sent me another one for my middle schooler. She uses it every day. There's gonna be some ROI on that, Kurt. Takes it to middle school every day.
Listen, hopefully the other students get inspired. They stand up co-working operations all over the world, and they remember a census from that Stanley mug.
And
So
it
I
all started
believe
here.
in the long game, Jamie.
Totally. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you for all that you do, Kurt. We can't wait to see you in Salt Lake City.
Likewise, thanks, guys.
Thank you.